Welcome everybody to a special edition of the In the Paint Show, episode 178. We're here on a Tuesday afternoon. Obviously, the big announcement for today is the McDonald's All-American team for 2024. Just got announced a little while ago. The game will be played April 2nd in Houston, and I know we'll be following that. And it's a very special honor. Regardless, guys, Ani and Chelsea here, regardless of who gets picked, it's still a very special honor. So wanted to get your take about that, real quick, Ani and Chelsea, just about this leading up to the culmination. And it's still a special moment for all 24 guys and 24 girls to get picked.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a special moment. I know for guys, it's, they even talk about it their sophomore, junior year about like, hey, I'm trying to be a McDonald's All-American, like the ultimate goal. Kids and parents be talking about that for their child for like since right when they enter high school. So for these kids to see their name on that list, I know it's a great thing. McDonald's All-American game has gone for a long time. A lot of MVA players, a lot of Hall of Famers. So, I know for those kids, like it's something that they really cherish because it's a goal when they enter high school. You see it every year. Like guys, when they enter high school, it's like, I want to be a Mickey D's kid,
No doubt.
It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with Ani that, any high school player that has aspirations of playing in college and is on pace to do so, has aspirations of probably being a McDonald's All-American as well. But, just to play, devil's advocate just a little bit as a player and as somebody who wasn't a McDonald's All-American, the kids that feel like they deserve to be there and didn't, like the show must go on. Put your head down, get to work. Just like there's a lot of McDonald's All-Americans who, made it to the NBA and were successful. There's a lot of McDonald's players who didn't. So at the end of the day, it is not the end all be all. I know we're going to talk a little bit today about, people that made it and didn't make it. But, I just like to add that perspective that, as amazing as it is to just be recognized. And I think everybody wants to be recognized for their talent and their abilities. Also, if you're not recognized, get back to work.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, now, Chats, I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. Let's rewind to 2008. The girls' game's been around for about 6 years. The announcement of the team comes on. Again, it may not have been a big announcement like it is nowadays, but when it came out, I'm assuming you kind of knew you weren't going to be on it, or did you feel like, I really have a real chance to be on it. I'm going to Duke. And then did it really fuel you, or was it like, wow, I don't really, I'm not on it. Who cares? What do you recall about that time?
Well, for me, I was a late bloomer. I know we talked a little bit about it. Not a late bloomer in terms of talent, but a late bloomer because my dad is just not into all the AAU and all that stuff. So I only played 1 year on the circuit. I went from not being ranked and nobody knowing me to like being ranked and just being put like number 5 in my position. I think number like 60 overall in my class with only one summer of playing in 5 events. So I think that I might have had a realistic chance if I would have started, earlier, like some of the rest of these girls, but I knew I wasn't going to be one. I was fine with not being one. And, I always just had that kind of self-belief in me that it didn't matter if you're going to recognize me or not. Like at the end of the day, we all got to play. And when I'm on the court, I'm going to, show who I am and get recognized that way.
No doubt. No doubt. Without further ado, let's pull up the boys All-American team. Get right at it. Obviously it's out there now, and we'll just go over them and we'll talk a little bit about them. So let's start with the West.
Let's go with the West. So we got Trey Johnson, Flory Badunga, Ace Bailey, Carter Bryant, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, Zoom Diallo, Donnie Freeman, Carter Knox, Trent Perry, Darion Reed, and Aiden Sherrill.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go with the East. Highlighted by, the Cooper Flagg, number 1 overall player, Liam McNeely, John Bull, the Hod Pettiford, Jalil Bethia, Isaiah Evans, Derek Queen, Boogie Fland, Ian Jackson, Bryson Tucker, Drake Powell, and Jaden Quaitons.
Yeah, obviously that's the 24 guys that got chosen. We'll leave that graphic up there a little bit. We'll talk about them. As you guys are listening, and if you're watching on our YouTube, we appreciate it. But if you're listening, we'll say the names again probably at some point and go through it. But Chelsea, let's start with you. Just highlight what's the first thing you see. Just the first reaction that comes to your mind.
First reaction is I see a lot of Mount Verde, kind of as expected. Number 1 overall team, number 1 overall player. I think for the most part, this is a very solid list of 24. I think that, the committee you know, give or take a few names that we'll probably discuss later, did an overall pretty good job. And I think, you know, all these kids are deserving. You can make a case for pretty much everybody that's on the list. I'm excited to kind of see these guys go against each other. I think the East is stacked. Like when I just look at, like, I think the East is, I don't know, the combination of players when you're putting these guys together, I think they have a stacked team. I don't know what Ani thinks, but I definitely can see the East winning this game by double digits.
Wow.
Well, with the pool, the field of 24, I mean, I think it's a very solid list. Like Chell said, I mean, you kind of hit it's kind of, you got the right talent for the most part. It's the right talent. Yeah, there's some guys that I missed, but like I do like that they added in some OTE guys, some overtime elite guys. You know, as we can see here, there's no more than 3 guys, you know, per a program. You got like Montverde has 3, Prolific has 3. I do wonder, you know, we'll talk about it later, like how does that impact like kids, you know, that are maybe top 15 players going into their senior year, going to a program that has 3 other top 15 to 30 players. Like, you know, I am interested to see how that impacts it going forward. But overall, good list. I'm gonna go different from Chelsea. I think the West, I like really with the guard play with Dylan Harper, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe. I think in Trent Perry, you got some guys that can really bomb it from deep, that can really get to the paint. And Floyd Badunga is gonna be a double-double. He's gonna get a double-double. Like he's just, his motor doesn't ever stop. So for me, I like the West. I think they got the guard plays really, really good. Obviously, nothing taken away from the East, but I think you got the higher rated guards in the class. And I think Flory's gonna be a monster.
Got you. Yeah, that's a good pick. Not a lot of people are talking about Flory. I don't know. We talked about him a lot on this pod over the last 2 years, but he's kind of like maybe you know, his West teammate Ace Bailey's kind of come up. Now, you know, Boogie Flan has had a big season. There's a few other guys that are really, you know, Flory's high school team is not what it was last year in terms of their one-loss record, and that's not everything, but yeah, he's kind of a little bit of a forgotten guy. I think for a while there, maybe people thought he was a top 2-3 guy, and now it's Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, and obviously Cooper at the top. So, Ani, quick question for you. Do you think between now and McDonald's, and then you got, you know, whether it's you know, Iverson game or Ballislife game, that at the end, and when it's all said and done, when me and you do our final rankings, that Ace has a chance to be number 1, or you think no, that's just Cooper's there and that's how it's gonna go?
By then, I think you still keep it Coop. Because Montverde's, you know, probably going to win that league. You know, especially if they go and mess around and win Geico, it's kind of hard. You know, the best player on the best team in the country, hard for someone else to trump them. Long term, I mean, obviously that's that could change. I think anybody makes an argument for Ace Bailey being number 1 has a legitimate argument. You know, has a real legitimate argument. But just because, like, when you look at these things in the high school level, you also have to look at resume, what their teams are doing. McEachern is playing very well. Obviously, Ace doesn't have the manpower like Coop does, but Coop being the best player on the best team, you know, it's gonna just speak. It's hard to trump someone like that. Like you, like McEachern just would have to be better than Montverde.
Yeah, I understand. and he would have to like just be totally go nuts, berserk in the all-star circuit. You know, the guy I'm thinking about who did that and went berserk, and it's like he probably should have been considered for number 1. And his daughter made the girls' team. McKinley Randolph is Zach Randolph in 2000. Guys, he went freaking nuts in the all-star game. He had like 35 and 12 and like Derby Festival class. He was dominating McDonald's. Like everybody's like, that guy should be number 1 because they're like you said, Ani. Darius Miles had this big summer. He was the big name, and people were like, he's gonna go to the NBA draft, and it was just hard to knock him off. Sometimes it's just hard to knock the champ off. You know what I mean? Like you really need to knock him out, and it's not. Sometimes you don't get a chance to knock him out. So I kind of get what you're saying there. You know, Cooper is deserving, and you know it's gonna take a lot to knock him off. In which is a solid class. Chelsea, do you think this class, like you kind of mentioned at the beginning, this class maybe be a little bit better than maybe we thought 8 months ago or a year ago?
Yeah, I think definitely long term, you have some guys like Ani said, that you're going to be able to look back and say like, okay, this kid was all right. I think historically, we love to compare drafts and like to line it up. Like historically, this draft doesn't fare very well compared to, some of the premier drafts of the past. But I mean, it really just gets down to how these players' games translate and how hard they work. I mean, there's people that aren't McDonald's All-Americans that we're going to be talking about, in the upcoming years because they were able to just, go to college or do whatever and make a name for themselves. So, and I think that, is the same for these guys who are going to go to school and then hopefully become professionals thereafter. So I think it'll be okay overall. I think Ace Bailey has some star power to him too, like just based off of the way he plays. When I look at Cooper, I see him being number one because he's just the best all-around, well-rounded player. Like he's effective on both sides of the ball, and like Ani said, he's the best player on the best team. Now, when it comes to the NBA and the game is just different, Ace Bailey with his ability to isolate and score baskets, might fare a little better at least right away. But the Ace Bailey. Here we go, pulling up his highlights. I mean, there's really nothing that this kid can't do. He just gets right to it. So you have to kind of have that type of hunger and confidence when you're playing in the pros, because there's a lot of guys that can do that, and you have to be able to kind of do it at a high level. And I think definitely at the high school level, his ability to just score baskets is kind of second to none at this point.
Yeah, it seemed like he had a game maybe about less than a week ago. He had a big game where he took like 4 dribbles. He would just catch and shoot, turn around, post up. You see, so there's some of the highlights. Like just 1 dribble pull-ups. That's pretty elite. Like you said, I can see why guys down the line really like him as the best prospect in this class. Again, maybe that has nothing to do with today, but I definitely can see it, and he definitely has a case even today. I mean, as you guys mentioned, and we were watching those highlights. So, is there anybody else that can move the needle with this group in that top 2 or 3, Ani, or is it that kind of set in?
Man, I'm telling you, Dylan Harper and Ronnie, pull up the highlights on Dylan Harper. I'm very, very high on him. Obviously, basketball pedigree. Dad played. Your brother played Rutgers, has a successful career. It's a lefty. Athleticism is really not his thing, but and his jumper has gotten a lot better throughout the year. He has a high feel. He's a capable, just real shot creator and scorer and high level playmaker. I know we're seeing here like what he does on the scoring, but I think the scoring opportunities come because of his passing, because his ability to get to spots, his ability to read defenses. I think he can manipulate defenses, and he just dictates how the game is played in the pace. At 6'5", 6'6", playing the point guard position, and he is a legit lead guard in the at the next level. You don't see a lot of those guys, and but the guys you do see are successful in the league or really good college players. I think Dylan Harper, he may not wow you from like a athletic box checker, but I think from just a skill, feel, positional size, and even some things you may say it doesn't pop like his athleticism, but it's functional and stable. Those guys have success at whatever level of basketball that they go to. So to me, I think Dylan Harper, he doesn't get talked about much, but because he doesn't wow you from an athletic standpoint, but I think what he does translates.
Yeah. I think of, again, when we watch those highlights, it's easy to think of the young man who played for Dallas is now with the Knicks is Jalen Brunson. And it's like he led his team to the Fab 48. He had a monster summer, had a good senior season. His team was like top 10 in the country. And then he gets to college, and I don't know if it's the system or not. I'm not really sure how he fell that far in the draft. I still kind of don't know how he fell that far in the draft. I thought he was much better. And maybe Dylan, that's not going to happen to him. But like you said, he doesn't have the fanfare. He's not the big highlights, and he doesn't need that. I mean, Don Bosco plays a really good team. He's awesome, and I hope people see that when they, as this circuit comes along, as the season goes along. He played in a big game at the Hoop Hall that you were able to see, Ani. Chelsea, I'll pull up the team again and wanted to get what, just maybe based on who you haven't seen a lot of, or maybe based on a matchup. as this all-star circuit comes? What one player do you want to watch more of, or you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, well, you said matchup, and I'm going to talk really quick just about my two favorite guards, that's going to be in this game. On the West, Trey Johnson, but on the East, my favorite guard, Boogie Fland. I'm really looking forward to a matchup between those guys. If you could pull up Boogie's highlights, we've talked about him previously on the pod, just from leadership, intangibles, ferocity, shot making, shot creation, pace. This kid is incredible. And, Ani was just talking about Dylan Harper, who's incredible in his own right, but not having that wow factor. Well, this kid has it. He's going to go to Kentucky. Yeah. He's going to do very well. And we talked about previously just his leadership. He's always talking through. He knows how to impact the game regardless of whether he has the ball or whether he's shooting well or things are going right. He's going to make his presence known. And I really have only seen him play 3 or 4 times, but he's been exceptional every single time. You know how I feel about Trey Johnson. We talked about him previously as well when I got the opportunity to see him in Vegas. And I just like the ferocity and the tenacity of both of these guys. So I think it's going to be exciting to watch them go head to head. Trey Johnson, big guard, shot making ability. It's going to be a key matchup in my eyes to look out for in this.
Gotcha. How about you, Ani, to piggyback on that question? Any matchup you're looking forward to, or, a matchup that maybe people are not speaking of that's going to be good?
Let's go back to that teams. For me, I don't think it's more of a matchup, it's just more of a player. And there's 2 of them. For me, Jalil Bethea. I mean, had a 40-point game at Hoop Hall. Has size, good quality positional size and scoring and length, and he's a pure bucket getter. Guys like him. I know no one really talks about him. We talked about even me. I've talked about like VJ, Coop, Dylan, Ace. Then I think you kind of got like guys like Trey and Jalil Bethea. Like those are guys that can also make legitimate arguments as well as like top 2 to 3 guys in that class. And they've been performing like that. So for me, it just seemed Jalil Bethea in this environment. Obviously, he's played in high level competition, but I haven't seen a whole lot of sample size. But every time I see him, I've been wowed by him. So I just want to continue to see him, like, anyone knows like the practices, the scrimmages that we get to the game, like that stuff. I want to see how he just really performs there. And the next one is Jaden Quaintance, who's very young, right? Classed up. I think if he wanted to, he could be a 226 kid. I mean, he's very young, has a lot of upside, checks a lot of boxes. So again, a kid that young, just how he does in this environment as well against these guys. I mean, I saw him at NBA Top 100 camp. I'm going to try to go see him in March. The Hoop State has something going on in North Carolina. I'm going to go out there. But just seeing him in this environment as well, he's another one I would like to see, like especially match up with a Flory. Right, like how does that that I think that's going to be a hell of a matchup, big man matchup, just guys hitting the hell out of each other.
Yeah, no doubt. I was going to mention Flory, like, he's, is he going to be licking his chops with John Bull and Jaden, mainly because he's so strong, but like Jaden, maybe doesn't have the experience, that Flory does, but doesn't mean he's not as talented. Jaden might be one of the more talented guys in this group, just pure talent.
100%.
He's not, I'm never going to compare nobody to like Sean Kemp, but he has that type of body. You know what I mean? Just big. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not Sean Kemp in high school, but it just moving that way. Like, wow, this kid. I remember me and Ani, we saw him in Vegas, and I'd seen him in Arizona when he just first got on the scene. He had moved from me. So I was like, is this kid as big and moves as well as I think he is? And people were easy to say, like, oh, Ronnie, he's young. He's, doesn't have his feet under him. The typical statements you say about young guys. I'm like, he's pretty big and good. Like, sure, he has his shortcomings, but in a year's time or a year and a half time, he's really made strides, and congrats to him, for making it. That's just like to speed up the process. Like you said, Ani, move up, get in this class, make McDonald's, and now he's going to Kentucky. You can't really beat that, so, again, great, great group overall in terms of congrats to these guys. For me, I think the one kid I want to see, because I'll see him before then, and he's kind of been at a smaller school, and then he's now in a Corona Centennial, is Arizona-bound Carter Bryant. And I didn't want to see him for a lot of reasons, and mainly because he's switched schools. I mean, Eric Freeney, here he is on the highlights. As you see some of these highlights here, he's playing with much better players this year, but they have 9 losses. I mean, it is what it is. They got 9 losses. You know, they're not playing to the level they want to play, but they still got another game in the league coming up against Roosevelt down the line for the league championship, and will probably be in the playoffs. And he's going to have to finish strong if they kind of want to win a state title or be in that mix. So I for him, he's always had the talent, and his uncle, Trayvon Pline, who went to Missouri to play for Quinn Snyder, played in the 2000 McDonald's game with Darius Miles and Deshaun Stevenson in that group, and he was a good college player, led them to Elite Eight. So Carter's got a lot of eyes on him. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Carter, Ani, in terms of that, but like I know you've seen him in the grassroots setting, but he's got, he definitely deserves it, but I think he's one of the guys that people want to see him finish and show that, he can be one of the best players in this group down the line.
Oh, 100%. I got to see him a couple of times actually in a school setting. Size and can shoot the basketball, seeing the perimeter game. We'll love to see more of like an interior presence, or just kind of mixing it up a little bit predictable to me as far as like where his points come from with his size. But but the perimeter game is real. You see what I'm saying? And the athleticism, he checks boxes. I've talked about physical profile boxes being checked. He does that honestly. Sure. But I would like to see like how he matches up with these guys. I think there's not a talent issue at all, but I do think like the next progression of his game, and maybe it doesn't happen going into March, right? But like just going forward, I would like to see a little bit more of an outside in, inside out kind of mixing, like kind of varying up his bag, to really, really exploit, the mismatches he has with his size.
Yeah, no doubt. And I will say this to him. He had a monster game against Roosevelt. They beat him in the first game. That was, he looked like a McDonald's All-American. He had 39 points, I think, 38 points, 14 rebounds. And they played against, Braden Burries, who's going to be a McDonald's All-American next year. And he did it. So, I mean, he's come up in a few of the big games. But again, they have 9 losses. And they have other Eric Freeney's kind of maybe the guys that maybe wasn't going to be in the McDonald's game, but he's pretty close in the 30-35 range, I think, Ani, as far as rankings going to UCLA. They have good young players, and we're going to talk about some of those guys. Let me talk about the USA roster for the Hoop Summit.
Yeah.
Sharman White's going to be a busy guy. On Pace Academy, he's the head coach of the USA roster, and he's the head coach of one of these all-star teams, McDonald's. So shout out to our guy Sharman White. Also USA basketball. But I want to say that game again. The McDonald's game is going to be April 2nd at the Toyota Center in Houston. I know Ani will be there, and he'll be zipping on his way to Arizona for the Final Four. Yeah. And let's talk about the Hoop Summit, which is against the World Team, Nike World Team. It's been going on since 1995, minus a few years. The 22-24 Nike Hoop Summit team. Again, I'm just going to announce them, not a graphic. Ace Bailey, David Castillo from Sunrise Christian, Isaiah Evans, who's a McDonald's All-American, Cooper Flagg, Boogie Fland, Dylan Harper, Ian Jackson, Morez Johnson from Thornton Township in Harvey, Illinois, who's having a good season, big man, Trey Johnson, Link Academy from Dallas, Texas, Asa Newell from Montverde Academy, Patrick Nogunga from Paul VI, a big man, Paul VI, one of the best teams in the country, and Jaden Quaintance. We talked about kind of the late bloomer, who is going to Kentucky. Again, that's 10 guys, I believe. So Chelsea, the 4 guys who are not on the McDonald's All-American team are Morez Johnson, Asa Newell, Patrick Nabonga, and David Castillo. Anything there that jumps out to you or that you want to talk about?
Well, they have 12 guys instead of 10. But what I like about Hoop Summit, obviously, the game is going to be April 13th. They're going to play against the World Select team. Hoop Summit just kind of historically, they're going to have McDonald's All-Americans, but they're also trying to put together the best fitting roster. So when you see guys that maybe are not, the top cream of the crop players, they're trying to put the pieces together. So they have that good mixture of both. And I think sometimes that's what you need when you're, competing in a game. I think Hoop Summit, I know historically the NBA scouts tend to like the Hoop Summit game a little bit better because it doesn't give as much all-star game. You know, McDonald's is very much like, like they're playing hard. So, you know, what sticks out to me with those other guys is that they're just trying to put a roster together that fits to have the most competitive, most successful game, as opposed to just, you know, maybe getting the best players in the country and kind of just putting on a show. I look at McDonald's more as a show. Hoop Summit, I look at as a more competitive and, you know, game amongst players that are going to take it a little bit more seriously. And we've seen the success that people have had in the Hoop Summit game, especially on the international side. Like Jokic, a lot of the international players were found, you know, from a game like that. So I just think that they take it more serious, and I don't think it's to discredit anybody who didn't make that roster, but they're putting a team together to perform at a high level, in my opinion.
No doubt. I think the biggest name on that kind of stage, as you mentioned, is Joker's one is Dirk Nowitzki. If you go back to 1998, everybody said they started talking about the players. You know, the top players were Ron Curry, Al Harrington, who you know, went to the pros, and Rashad Lewis went to the pros, and everybody's people that were watching close were like, Dirk's better. Dirk's the best prospect in the country. And, you know, it was like he wasn't in the American system. So it was like everybody's like, no, he's the best prospect down term. You should draft, you know, people were talking about drafting him, and dude, his recruiting was very weird, you know, like in terms of where people are going to take him. And everybody's like, the hell with him going to those colleges. Like, he's the best prospect. So like you said, Chelsea, to your point, you know, it's really helps in terms of the evaluation process. That game again at the Moda Center in Portland on April 13th. What stood out to me, and that team came out already about a week ago. Speaking of the Hoop Summit, I kind of knew Ani when I saw Asa New on that team. I'm like, he ain't gonna make McDonald's, and that's nothing against Asa. That's just he ain't gonna make McDonald's. And I think that's one of the next thing we want to talk about is there's 6 guys from 2 teams, 3 from Prolific, 3 from Montvert, and Asa doesn't make it, and their 5th starter, Robert Wright. Now, he's not their 5th starter. He's just the 5th starter I named. They're all top 25 guys, really. But when he went to that Hoop Summit team, I kind of said, oh, he's probably not going to make it. They're probably going to take 3. I just didn't think, I don't know, did you like 5 guys from one team? Then what's the purpose of a McDonald's game? I don't know. Maybe you don't have thoughts, or maybe Chelsea, you're thinking, no, Ronnie, it's 5 to 5, you know, 24 best guys. If they're from the same team, I guess I'll start with you on it. You just give me your thoughts on that. 3 guys from Montvert.
Yeah, like I mean, to talk about just like, oh, it should be the best guys. I mean, yeah, like you say that, like, oh, it's all great, but we all know it's always deeper than that shit. Like, I mean, it's just not gonna be that. Like, it's hard to have 5 guys from one team being the McDonald's all. Like, it's just not going to happen. I mean, should Rob Wright and Asa Newell be in there 100%, but that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to work. It just wasn't going to work. If it happened one year, I guarantee it will never happen again. So like, but so for Montverde having those 3, I think it's great that you had 3. But you know, it also is telling, like, you know, for those guys, again, I just want to see. I'm not even trying to put thoughts and words into Rob Wright or Asa Newell's mouths. But, you know, from the outside looking in, you have to think, how will this impact players of their caliber staying on those level of teams? You know, especially if being a Mickey D's player, let's say if they hold that to such a high regard, it's going to be hard to like, okay, who do you have? Okay, so like, if I want to be a Mickey D's kid and you got 4 other guys top 20 in the country, you know, who one of us is going to be left out. So that's going to probably build some hesitancy of people going to those type of programs.
Okay, fair enough. And that's a great point. You know, you got to, in the larger scheme, if that's important to you, you got to, you know, think about that when you, again, guys are going to the EYBL Scholastic, they're going to high level teams, they're not going to their hometown team. It's something they're going to consider, I think, going forward. They're going to see this team and they're going to know who made it and didn't make it. It ain't rocket science. It is what it is. So I don't know, Chelsea, do you share the same sentiments or not?
I mean, well, I agree with Ani that there's just politics in everything. Like, the committee does not want to set a precedent of putting 5 players from one team. Like, you know, they're just not going to do that. So I totally agree with Ani. I hope players aren't influenced on making their decisions based off of, continuing to plan a team with the stat, because there's no guarantee that you're gonna make McDonald's anyway. And I also think too, like, if you're really that guy, like, okay, nobody questioned was Cooper Flagg gonna be one of the 5 people that was snubbed, so it's obviously people that are kind of like, on that cusp or whatever. So do I think Rob Wright and Ace are deserving? Absolutely. Nobody would argue if they were to get in there. The only argument would be that there's 5 of them from the same team. So it's definitely not a talent standpoint. But, please don't make your decisions based off of McDonald's and stuff. Everybody has goals, but you never know how anything's going to play out. We've talked about many players on the pod, Ani and Ronnie, just kids that were on the cusp and climbing and, maybe would have had opportunity if something didn't happen. We recently talked about Jace Richardson, how, in this last half and Hoop Hall, he was balling. Like, you can make a case for him if he wasn't injured that he would have been in the conversation. So, I hope that players aren't making decisions based off of stuff like this, because ultimately I just feel like it's kind of out of your control. If you're the guy, you're going to be there. If you're on the cusp, it can kind of maybe go either way, regardless of where you're playing.
Charles, that sounds all sweet, but like my whole thing is like, it's just like they're going to do it. I mean, I have heard from people that tell me, oh, we don't care about rankings, or we don't care about this, that, and the third. That's swear to God, when ESPN on 247 is about to put out their rankings, these same people are tripping out, trying to see where their kid is going to be. So, like, they're going to do it. Like, I'm just going to be real. Like, they're going to do it. Like, they can say, like, yes, you're right. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just like how I know these parents and these kids, they're going to think that, because they can say that they don't care.
Yeah,
but they actually care. Like, these people care way more than sometimes.
I believe that.
Yeah, and it's something that the culture has, Ani, is to say, we want to. What AU coach travel coach doesn't say to this guy, we want you to make the McDonald's American. We think we can help you. That's that's part of the system we're in.
Selling point too.
Yeah, it's a selling point. So again, you don't have to make it. We could go over the guys that didn't make it: Kawhi Leonard, David Robinson. Then we can go on and on and on, and Glenn Rice. And it's like, but you kind of want to, like you guys said at the top of the show, it's still a hell of an honor. So it's going to be a factor, and just to go over some raw data numbers, as you guys mentioned, we have 3 from, Prolific Prep, 3 from Montvert. So that puts Montvert's number at 17 with its first pick in 2013. 17 would be second all-time to Oak Hill Academy, which doesn't have a McDonald's All-American. Oak Hill Steve Smith is on another Richter scale, 35.
We got it.
35. Well, 34 for him, and I think they had one more. He's on another scale, 35, So 30. So Montvert is about halfway there. And then, believe it or not, Prolific's 3 puts them at 12, which is now tied for third all-time. So it's Oak Hill, 35, Montvert 17, and DeMatha Catholic 12. So Prolific now has 12, tied for third with DeMatha, the great program out of Hyattsville, Maryland, which is kind of a Catholic school, parochial school. Obviously, we've talked about DeMatha many times over the years, and they're just a staple of high school basketball, and they've been very, very good throughout. So shout out to those programs, and we'll see if our guy, Yurek Stoneman, keeps it alive and gets a McDonald's All-American in the future. Obviously, Oak Hill doesn't have one this year. They're just competing. But, as you guys said, that's pretty interesting. I do want to talk about the guy who I would pick. Again, I love Asa Newell, but I got to talk about my guy, Robert Wright. We're pulling some highlights here, courtesy of Courtside Films. There he goes, taking it to the rack. Here's some recent highlights with MVA. But even in the summer if you go back, I thought he was as good enough to be MVP of Pangos. Maybe he was a second or third guy there, good at other events. And I would have him, and when we do our final rankings, I'm going to be pushing for him to maybe finish in the top 6 or 7 easily overall. Not, on the cuts or anything. He's going to be in our top 10, but I think I might be. Now, again, you may argue with me the other way. I think I'm going to push him for be like a top 5 or 6 guy. Like, he's that good. Maybe it doesn't show with Montvert, but I think it showed with Team Final, and I think it shows anyway. So that's my quote. I have a strong opinion about it just because I like that his type of point guard, and I like a guy who sets guys up, table setter, plays good, hard, team-oriented guy, and can knock down shots. I don't think his play is taking anything away from there being other good guys on the court. I still think anybody that has any basketball acumen can still see it.
Yeah, I can go with that. I may not have him top 6, but I can go with that.
Yeah.
Only because if Rob Wright was taller, he would be, you know, we're literally he's literally not that because he's on the shorter end. So, but I think, you know, it always goes back to, it doesn't matter how tall you are, it matters how good you are. And I think Rob Wright really, you know, he really kind of, you know, defines that. I mean, just someone, like you said, can really pass the ball. I've seen these highlights, can still make shots, shoot it, can score, can get to wherever spot he wants, competitive on the defensive end. He just gets a lot done. I definitely think he's a top 6 level player in that class. I just think the only reason he probably don't is because he's just not as tall. You know, if he was 6'3", I mean, he'd probably be number 2 in the country. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's that good. So I can go with that. I can go with that.
Okay, I want to put both of you guys on the hot seat really quick because, you know, we just do the hot seat. That's how we do it in the paint show. So who would you guys take out? Both of you, give me one player that you guys would take out to add Rob Wright. And it's not to discredit anybody that made the game. As we said, these kids are deserving. You can go any way, but you guys have him as a top 6 player, which means by your guys' standards, he should be in this game. So who would you remove?
I'll go first, Ani, if you want me to. So I'd stick him on the East Coast smaller because you got Flory Badunga and Jaden. I'm taking out John Bull. Like, unless I don't see anybody for him to match up. Maybe Aiden Sherrill. I want to see Rob Wright going against Trent Perry and Zoom Diallo. That's what I want to see. And maybe you got Tahad and Boogie, but I still think he's deserving. I mean, he's definitely top 24. So again, there's nothing against John Bull. I know he's a 7-foot shot blocker. I don't need to see him. He hasn't done anything particularly dominant on his high school team or to warrant him going over Rob Wright.
For me, I'll just go in the West and not trying to take away anything that this kid has done, but I'll probably, you know, take another guard. I'll take out Zoom Diallo, or I would have taken Carter Bryant, one of those two, just because I just feel he just done more. He's just feel like he's been better than them. So I just feel like he's been having a better summer. He's had a better scholastic. So for me, I will go either of those two.
Yeah, I think I took the easy way out, Ronnie. That's more of a, you know, like a ballsy statement. And it's, did Team Final go to the final or win EYBL?
They got
17 last year.
Yeah,
17. They got pretty far.
They went to Team Vegas.
They played Vegas Elite, right?
Vegas Elite, right? They played Vegas Elite in the final.
Yeah, they got to the final or something.
Yeah, it was either Team Takeover or Team Final that played in the finals. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
and they had the best regular season, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Team Final. They lost one game, I believe. You know what I mean? So again, he's a big reason. Obviously, Jalil Bathil's on the team, but he's a big reason. You know what I mean? And I want to mention a guy who I think really has to play good in that same light. He's going to really have to show, I think, the country something, you know, as the final rankings come out in April and May is Drake Powell. I know he didn't play good at Pangos. Not saying he didn't play good at other events. I thought he was good at an EYBL session in Phoenix, but I think he's the one guy that has a little bit to prove too. You know,
I agree.
Drake nobody's been talking about Drake anywhere too much, maybe outside his home state. And he's going to North Carolina, but I think he needs to show something in those practices in front of NBA scouts and the rankers that, you know, hey guys, I you know, was well deserving and is one of the top 15 or so guys here.
No, I do think he's top 10 to 15. I mean, I think for me is like with him is more, he's kind of on that. Is he more like 10 to 15 or 8 to 15, or is he someone that's a legitimate like 5 to 8 or 4 to 8?
Oh, wow.
I guess for me, I wonder, like in those, I want to see, does he put himself in that top tier, or, you know, is he half a tier below those guys, stuff like that. I just kind of see compared to I have the 4 that I feel like they're kind of in the tier of their own right now. then it's like, okay, where are you really? Where is he at? you know,
Yeah.
'cause I've seen him play really, really well, and I've also seen him play not so good. So kind of want to see where he's at.
Got you. And our guy Grant Rice, who's a great friend of ours of this show, and the coach at Bishop Gorman. Last year he came on and he was the West coach, and he said these guys are competitive. Ronald Hollins just sets the bar, and he just helped that game become much better all around. Just the whole atmosphere was better because he was involved. I don't know, but again, we don't know the in or outs of the dynamics of the team and how the coaches are going to start and break them down. But is there either one of you can answer? Is there anybody that you guys think can jumpstart this game or will jumpstart his team and will make them play hard?
Yeah, I would definitely think Flory.
Okay.
I think Flory will. I think Dylan. Those are like I like kind of getting understanding how like Dylan's like, he got a competitive family. Like, these people don't play. Like in every
Harper don't play online. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
mom, no one. So for me, I feel like Dylan's gonna, he's gonna come out play hard. Flory, obviously, like I don't think Flory doesn't know how to not play hard.
Correct.
And in the East, I think the guys like like Coop. I think he's a guy that really kind of he's gonna want to make a statement regardless if he's number one right now. But I see guys like Coop, Flory, Dylan, just kind of really bringing it early. Even Ian, like Ian's a competitor. Like he's a competitor. So I say those 3 to 4. I would say those 3 or 4 can be like some igniters for their group.
Great. Chelsea, any closing thoughts on this team as we get ready to switch gears here?
Nope. I mean, I think it's going to be a good game overall. I look forward to just kind of down the line us kind of dissecting these players a little bit more. And also, too, I was going to ask you guys any knowledge on where the few undecided players might end up. We've talked about Derek Queen a lot on the show. I'm high on him. Bryson Tucker, Carter Knox. It'll be interesting to see. I know we've had in the past that guys have committed at McDonald's and kind of like let people know where they're going to go, but it seems like those 3 are still kind of up in the air.
So with Derek Queen still up in the air, I was here in Indiana. I don't know how sure, but I've been kind of here in Indiana. Bryson Tucker, I heard the pro route. It kind of been leaning towards that. Carter Knox, Kentucky, but that can obviously kind of change too. I know he's got some pro options as well. I know there's other schools that kind of really in deep with him. But I was hearing Kentucky for him, hearing pro for Bryson, and hearing Indiana for Derek Queen. So hopefully I'm 3 for 3.
Good insight there, Ani. Any chance one of those 3 or anybody can switch? And anybody want to join Rutgers now? Like he's only like, you know what? I'm switching to Rutgers. We got something here. We might go to the Final Four. Or is that they got their 2 dudes and they're gonna ride with that?
I think it's gonna be hard because it's like both of those were just relationships. Like like obviously like Rutgers does a good job, but like that was more of a relationship thing. So I think like to see one of those guys do it kind of out the blue, anything could happen. I mean, Ronnie, recruiting's wild, especially with NIL.
That's why I'm saying with the NIL, with the hey, we got something here. That's the only reason I was thinking like maybe
it could happen, but I don't see it.
Got you. Okay, well,
big bags would have to be thrown. Like huge bags would have to be randomly thrown.
Rutgers. And and I want to give, I love my guy Ace Bailey, but I want to give a shout out to Phil Sellers, who was a former NBA guard, and Phil was in the running for the number 1 player in 1972, and he went to Rutgers, and they made it to the Final Four. So it ain't over that Phil's that Ace is the top recruit there. Phil Sellers is a bad dude. Like they need to make, Ace Bailey's gonna need to make a run. Like. He went to Jefferson High in Brooklyn, and that wasn't the strongest class. And he went to Sonny's game, and he was the MVP. Balled out, he balled out, and he's just a New York guy at the time. And I'm not really sure the particulars why he went to Rutgers, but like it worked out. In his senior year, they were undefeated going into the Final Four. and they lost in the semifinals. So shout out to Phil Sellers, and good luck to Ace Bailey, and good luck to Dylan Harper and all the other 22 guys on the McDonald's team. But for now, we're going to switch gears here, and we kind of got some news. Chelsea saw the news wire coming in, and we're going to close out the show, talk a little bit. We can't go without talking about this. Like, it's just crazy. The Bucks fired their coach. Second best record in the East. Ani's mentioning, Ani screaming, they're 30-13. They're 30-13. You know, we want to talk about that, and then maybe if we have time to talk a little bit about, you know, the scoring performances of two great players, Cat and Joel Embiid, who might be the MVP. So Chelsea, what just give us the highlight there. What's your first takes, and talk a little bit about the league, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, Adrian Griffin was let go by the Bucks today. I'm kind of shocked by it, to be honest. Like, Milwaukee's been playing better. They're trying to figure it out. Like, I don't think sometimes we give people time to, like, kind of work through and sort through stuff. Like, you know, Damian Lillard, ball dominant. Giannis, front court player, but still ball dominant. Like, you know, you got to let things develop a little bit. I understand that Giannis sat out a couple games. I got blown out. Okay, whatever. But collectively as a team, like I felt like they were heading in the right direction. I wasn't super sold on the chemistry right away, but chemistry is something that takes time. So I was really just kind of surprised by the move. And now I'm surprised by the names that I'm hearing. Doc Rivers, who was just on TV last night, is, you know, at the top of the list of coaching candidates. And, you know, Doc has a resume in his own right. He's used to coaching star power and talent. So, you know, I can see why you would give him a look. But, you know, Adrian Griffin, the team's doing well. It's mid-season. I don't know if that's necessarily the change that they needed to, I guess, get over the hump. You know, everybody's chasing the Bucks and Philly, you know, over there in the East. But I don't know. I just thought it was strange. I really don't know what is going to become of it. And if it, you know, Doc Rivers or whoever they decide to get is going to make the team that much better.
Right.
Gotcha.
I'm very surprised by it. I did hear a little bit about, like, you know, kind of a miscommunication, or the relationship being kind of weird with him and some of the top guys. But 30-13, you're going to have one of the top records in the East going into it. I'm trying to put myself in, like, maybe the management shoes, right? Like, is it like, okay, it's championship or bust, and Adrian Griffin can't help us win a title. He can't, you know, we won't win a title with Adrian Griffin this year, so we need to go a different direction. If that's the thinking, cool. I still think he should be able to show you that. And if you were like, and if you were thinking that, you probably should have hired a Doc Rivers to
begin with.
You know what I mean? Like, why hire him if he has not proven that he can be a championship head coach yet? You know, like, you're bringing somebody in the first year with a team like that, guys. Like, it can work out really good, which it worked out good. You're 30-13. It's not like they were bad. Yeah, they may have some issues here and there, but it wasn't nothing crazy. But did they expect year one he's like Joe Mazzulla, or, you know, what, you know, like, I guess it just wasn't realistic to me. There wasn't realistic expectations when you got a first year head coach. And then I guess for me, it's like, if you're a first year head coach, do you want to take on, like, a team that's trying to win a championship right away? Because we're seeing these guys getting, like, nicks quick, and they're having winning records. You know, should you take more maybe a rebuilding thing and you can build up with the program, or do you take something where like Steve Nash with the Nets? I mean, I know Steve Nash may not have been that great, but like when he had Harden and all them, but they wanted him on and they got him out. You know, so it's like, what were they realistic with their expectations? And if you thought that you couldn't, if you wanted to win right now, year one with him, then you probably should have hired a Doc Rivers or something like that from the jump. You should not have brought in a first year head coach. That was dumb.
Yeah, well, I don't understand. What did they think they were going to be 37-6 right now? I you know, like, what did they think? Was and not just that, with you said a new coaching, they fundamentally changed the makeup by bringing in Lillard, as Chelsea said, for basically Drew Holiday. You went from a gritty defensive oriented team on the perimeter to like a scoring guy who in Portland never had his team in the higher echelons of the defensive side of the ball already. So you knew that you were changing that to that type of team. And then I'm hearing, like you said, Ani, is that he wanted them to really be concentrating on defense. And they were kind of like, well, you know, we're not going to win like this. This is how we won before. Well, then why did you get rid of the coach before him? If the players want to play that style, it's almost goes, forget Doc Rivers. Buzenholzer, why? Like, was he that bad? I don't know about that. Like, you brought in a new team, you know, with a new big piece and got rid of an important piece. And I know Chelsea would argue one of the most important pieces. Like, that dude is super important.
The most important piece, arguably. No, not he, because obviously Giannis. But yeah, like you guys changed the team.
Yeah, you changed the team.
If you're a coach, what is attractive about coaching in Milwaukee when they got rid of Budenholzer 2 years after he won an NBA title? You get rid of Adrian Griffin after going 30-13. It's literally like your job is semester to semester. Damn near you can go win an NBA title, then you can get fired by December of the following year. Like it's it looks unstable to me. If it's something more. If there's something more to it, okay, cool. Like then you know what I'm saying is whatever. But like it looks unstable. Like it doesn't look like
a win a title like that. Yeah.
Why would I want to coach there if I'm gonna get fired? Like you're a place that has literally no patience.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that's the maybe. And again, they got to come in and the coach has got to. If I'm the coach, whoever it is, I'm gonna say, guys, you know what? Griffin didn't do that bad of a job. Some of your guys' effort stinks. This shit needs to change. Like, you know, it's something along that line. It's not just Griffin. It's you got 12 players that are getting paid well to put it on the line and step up. Can't just be completely him. You know, it's maybe they tanked, maybe they lost a game or two because they weren't responding to him. I could see that. And maybe to the Bucks' credit, they want to nip that now, like before it gets out of control. Maybe they think they're sliding. I can see that, but you better be right. You know, like, or else just like you said, Giannis is going to be out of there because it's going to be unstable. To your point, they can't bring in another superstar. Damn, they're going to fire the coach. You know, like you're taking a big risk. The perception is you're taking a big risk. Like, you got to win now, or you think you're going to lose Giannis in a year or two if you don't think this is going to work. Something is, like you said, a little amiss, a little surprising, but. Again, they the ownership and the front office thinks that they're making the right decision. They just got a new team and they're not doing that bad, you know. So, I don't know if there's anything else to say to it. I just think Doc Rivers. I've said this before. Nothing against him. He's riding that one title as far as it can take us. You're talking about 7 or 8 of the biggest playoff collapses. He's involved in like 4 or 5 of them. So. I don't know what magic he has at the first practice what makes them so much better. I mean, you know, they're already a good team. They're a 600-700 team, so he's just gonna get them to like elite. We'll see. I don't know if you guys have any. Yeah, I mean, I don't see it. I don't know if their defense is gonna change that much. You know, the guy who's changing defensively is the guy down in Houston who's with Boston. He gets them boys to play. You know what I mean? Like that's what I look. If you can't get him. I don't know if I'm getting rid of Griffin.
Right.
What other coach is just like turning the ship around defensively? Wow, it's hard to turn around a ship even just generally. Now you just want to turn it around defensively. Wow. Yeah. Some big stuff there. Speaking of offense, switching gears to offense, Ani, real quick, you know, any thoughts on those big scoring performances? Obviously 50. I can name you. Tracy Murray scored 50. There's guys that have scored 50 in a game that are you'd forget about, and they're average run-the-mill player. 60 is like, wow. 70 is like a whole other level. It's only be like 9 or now 11 after these, you know, Embiid, maybe 9, 10, 11. So what's your thought there?
Bro, Karl Anthony Towns scoring 60 and losing is like so much of it's like a Karl Anthony Towns.
62, Ronnie. 62.
Like that is such a Karl Anthony Towns thing to do. Score 62 and lose to the Hornets. like not blaming him for the loss, but like, I mean, bro, like what, like that is the Timberwolves, and that can only happen to the Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns. That is hilarious. He had 44 at half. And then Anthony Edwards is like, "Oh yeah, man, we were just trying to force feed him the ball, let him go get 100. We didn't care." like that could, like, I promise you, there is maybe a handful of organizations as good as the Timberwolves are playing. There's only a handful of organizations or teams I can see that shit happening to, and they are one of them. Joel Embiid 70, he completely dominated the Spurs. Wemby, Wemby could not. Okay, Joel Embiid's 2 dribble little lefty pull up jumpers like seem unstoppable. Like you cannot stop that. Like he's just, and then throwing his size and just moving Wemby out the way and dunking it like. And then they had to put Jeremy Sohan in there. Like, okay, go ahead, like Sohan, like Wemby can't do it. Sohan go in there, and it was ugly. I mean, that was probably the most dominant performance I've seen in a long time. Like that was a dominant 70. Like they had no answer for him. Like
70. None. That's a lot of points.
It was dominant because he gave it to him however he wanted. Inside, mid-range, 3. Like he was just playing with him. Like, and he just pushing the bigs out the way. Like he's drop stepping dudes going like 5 feet out. Like that was like Shaq-esque. Like a modern day Shaq-esque.
No doubt. Chelsea, you got any thoughts on these performances? And I'm kind of with Ani. It's like the Timberwolves, are they for real? And is this going to be a defining moment in their season? It's like, guys, is it going to be like people are going to remember this moment if they don't win the playoffs, or it's like, are they going to ride and say, guys, we're going to turn this around? We're not about guys scoring a bunch of points. We're going to win. We're young, but we're going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to say this about the Timberwolves, that I think that they're the real deal because they have a guy like Anthony Edwards who can really, carry a team. But I'm also going to say that I don't think people are afraid to play Minnesota like that. As good as they are, as good as their record, I think teams would be okay with meeting them in the playoffs if they ended as the 1 seed or the 2 seed. I really do. And that's because, one, Anthony Edwards stunk it in the playoffs last year. So, we need to see him be a little more reliable. But if he can, get it going like he has this regular season, he's been incredible in spurts. So, that's kind of how I feel about it. That game was just stupid. I watched it. The cat was going crazy. And they played exactly how Anthony Edwards said they were playing, and their coach blamed the team for the loss too. Like we were being silly, being immature. Yeah, he was saying like, we're force feeding the ball, we're not playing the right way, and and that's what happened. So, that was just funny, and I agree with Ani's sentiments about Karl Anthony Towns because like he's just like the strangest player in the league to me because. So talented and so like capable, because obviously 62 points, like you still have to make those shots on. At one point in time, he was 10 for 12 from 3, as a big man. So like he's incredible. Then he's also like weird. So I don't really know like what to say. Like so talented, so incredible, but like, can we depend on him? I don't know. And I do think that this is the last year of this experiment with that team together. Like I'm blowing the team up if we don't do good. So like I'm over it. I'm gonna take Anthony Edwards and we're gonna ride him till the cows come home, put some more people around him, and figure it out.
And guess what, Chelsea? On that note, as we close, the Minnesota's gonna get Doc Rivers to fix it. I don't get that. I really don't get it. He was in Philly. Joe Embiid. It's just like you said, Ani, is this Wilt Chamberlain Shaq type of guy. They couldn't win, so they fire him, and he's Milwaukee's answer. I don't get it.
And Embiid, I didn't get to see everyone. I got to see Shaq, and I can make a case that Embiid is just as dominant as Shaq because he's 5,000 times more skilled. And Embiid has that big, strong, powerful body that he can do Shaq-like things all night if he wanted to. But because his mid-range is impeccable, because he is a high percentage three-point shooter, he's just spreading the wealth at 3 levels because he can. But if he
Right.
wanted to just sit here and push people around and dunk on them all night, then he could do that too. He is absolutely incredible. Like, I am totally mind blown by seeing somebody with his size move like that. Like, it's not normal. Like, the way he's able to move and play is just like incredible. So I'm very
Now I
happy.
hope he can I hope he can do this in the playoffs, because that boy has not done nothing, has not done anything in the playoffs. So I need Joel Embiid to stop being regular season Embiid.
No,
I know.
I totally agree with that. Like, it's definitely time for him to step up, and obviously everybody's taking it to another notch, defensively and collectively as a team. But I'm just speaking purely. I'm not talking about winning games. I'm talking about just pure talent. I have not seen anybody that with that big of size and mass and body be able to do the things that he can do. And
100%.
Jokic is super skilled too. Like, but he's the body of a plumber, and he's not the athlete that that Joel is, even though he still gets it done in his own right. Like, I don't want to downplay him either, but Joel has like power. He has like a little bit of burst at a first step. Like, he has every move and every type of footwork, and he can shoot. He can shoot free throws. He can shoot mid range. He can shoot threes. Like, wow. I'm really just amazed by him. Put it that way.
Yeah. Guys, as we end up here, it's very mentioned. You mentioned Embiid, and just a quick note as we get out of here in episode 178, I believe is. Appreciate everybody listening to this special episode. And back to Embiid, is to Ani's point earlier. He was at Montverde as an underclassman. He came from the NBA Without Borders, right? And he went to Montverde, and they had Dakari Johnson, who ended up at Kentucky, and they had some big guys, and they were going to bring in D'Angelo Russell, and they had some other guys that had already been there, and he made a smart move to leave. He would have been on their bench. Maybe he would have blew up as a senior, but he went to another school and blew up. And it's like you said, Ani, sometimes you gotta make what's right move for you. You know what I mean? Like, for him to stay there, maybe it wasn't a good move. And you think, who leaves Montverde? He was kind of forgotten a little bit, and he did really good in the Hoop Summit game, if I recall. But he had a really good senior year, and it's because he left and made the right move. So,
right.
On that note, want to say that again?
And actually was able to play.
Yeah, he was able to get the reps, get better, and play. He wasn't better notoriety than Dakari Johnson. Dakari Johnson followed Kevin Boyle from St. Patrick's School down to Montverde, and he obviously was a big name, and it worked out for him at that time, and it ended up working out for Embiid. So the moral of the story is, if it works out for you, make the right move for you. Congrats again to all the 24 guys in the McDonald's game, and to the 12 guys that made the Nike Hoop Summit. We'll be following them. We'll be announcing our own Ballislife All-American game probably soon, where it will be, what time, and it's going fast. So for Chelsea, Hopkins, and Ani and Umana, we're out of here, and we appreciate your guys' viewership, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Bye, guys.